Hello and welcome to my series of programs and conversations with men and women whose ideas, vision and philosophy define our contemporary world. My guest today is an engineer by training, a psychoanalyst by vocation and training, and a writer is what has brought him into the news most recently with a book on Mira and the Mahatma. He's published more than 15 books, writing extensively on subjects ranging from psychoanalysis, of mysticism, of violence, of sexuality. I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Sudhir Kakar.
Thank you very much.
Mysticism, sexuality, violence, is it more than a coincidence that these in some ways reflect and have strong bearing upon each other? And this has been more or less the focus of much of your writing.
Yes, I think they're all very connected with each other, and they're also extreme states of human beings, and I'm interested in extreme states of human beings. All of them have a great charge of energy, and of course they're also related very much to our bodily life, and or at least they're not normal, as one sees that. So, and I'm interested in people who are normal, but not really on that kind of just constrained by normality.
So let's look at sort of the two protagonists of your book, Mira and the Mahatma. But before we really talk about the book, you sort of, it's quasi-fiction. It's based on reality, based on as many facts as you could garner, but the rest of it is fiction. Why this approach to it?
The reason is very simple, because my effort was to look at this relationship of these two people, and especially Mira, who is the heroine of the book, if one can call her that. And to get to her internal life, you can't have history. History gives you outer facts, but the emotional truth, you need fiction. And what I wanted to do was really that the historical truth and emotional truth none of them outweigh each other, that they both are in balance.
So while juxtaposing the two, how is the reader reassured that that sort of fiction was reasonable fact, and fact is reasonable fiction?
Okay. Well, there are three main characters in this book, and the narrator, who's Naveen, who's based also on a character who lived in that time in the ashram, but I say it in the beginning, in the foreword, he's almost completely fictional. He's my voice, he kind of ties down things together, moves the narrative forward, so I need him for my fiction. Gandhiji is almost all fact, because I wouldn't dare to go into what is going on in his internal life. I might dare to, but I didn't feel like it. So all the incidents which happen are true, all the letters which are quoted in are not changed, they are in his words. So that is almost all fact. Mira is where the very intense conversation between fact and fiction takes place. All the incidents are true, but for instance, when she says, he sent me away and I was feeling terrible, so then I use my novelist prerogative to what does this terrible mean. So I have a writing.
But in a sense, that is a license that all biography or all factual writing would also have. You met Mira.
I met Mira in 1965 when I was a student in Vienna.
And what was the immediate was the impact at that time the catalyst that then later matured into the book, or it just came up for you much later?
One never knows these things of when some meeting takes place and when it kind of bears fruit. Yes, I'd forgotten about that meeting till I was thinking about Gandhiji, who also had written long ago in a non-fiction book, and then their relationship and Mira came up, and there are things which you never really know why you write a book. I mean, you always find reasons for it afterwards. You can find reasons.
So what is your reason after the fact?
My reason is after the fact now that I like passionate people, and I think Gandhiji and Mira were both very passionate people. And what is this passionate people? I think both who have very intense conversation, the spirit and the flesh. I think that is the definition of passion as I see it, and both of them had it. So this is.
In fact, this has been a strand through much of your writing, and to what degree does that reflect a personal conflict for you, or a personal struggle between the spirit and the flesh?
Well, I hope it's not a struggle. It is a conversation which goes on taking place between the two. I think it's a friendly conversation and not a conflict. But I respect both, but I also see that both can be very antagonistic at times, which leads to all kinds of conflicts. But when they are in harmony, I think those are the most beautiful moments of creation for everyone, whether it's music, when...
So is this conversation, in a sense, the privilege of a psychoanalyst? Gandhiji plainly, struggled enormously with this, and it remained for him a conflict, and that is where much of the book, in the sense of focus, is on. So would you say that this is sort of the luxury, the privilege of psycho?
No, I think lots of people are privileged that way. I think any kind of creation, when it is taking place, any kind of even artistic creation, mystical creation, there I think this struggle is not there. That is when the times when they come in harmony, and I think Gandhiji also had moments. They were very great moments. The Dandi March, for instance, when he is in his full flow, when you see him how he walks, the smile on his face. I think that time there was not struggle. They were both very much together. So there are in people's lives different moments, and Gandhiji had those moments too.
And you have spoken about, written about in the book, in ways that Gandhiji was really sort of almost a woman, or was drawn to the feminine side of the yin and the yang aspect. And would you say that it remained substantially unresolved for him at the end of his life?
No, I think for him it was not at all something to be conflicted about. He liked it. He looked after people. In fact, I think it's a mistake to call him Bapu. I mean, he's the Ma really, and he would have loved it himself. I know that, I don't know when it was, around 1937, in a public lecture he was in Karachi, I think, and he said there is as much reason for a man to want to be a woman as otherwise we always think women want to be men. So he was talking about himself. I don't think he had any conflict about it.
So let the psychoanalyst in you give us rein and elaborate on this for us, on the feminine aspect of Gandhi, and where the conflict, if at all, might have been, and the wonderful phrase that you use of a conversation rather than conflict. Help us understand this idea.
Okay. Well, I think one part is, I mean, we call it feminine, but the caring of the next generation, the caring for the wounded, the sick, the conflicted. We call it feminine, the nursing. And Gandhi,
sort of, the modern gender theory sort of beat you up for this?
Well, they might, but I mean, we normally associate with that this caring is not really a male, but it is much more a woman part. And Gandhiji was a very, very caring person, of people who were close to him, but also people who were not close to him. The kind of nursing, the amount of care he took. In fact, people who were sick in the ashram, it was much better to be sick in the ashram. You got to see Gandhiji much, much more than when you were well, and also at least he had that great part in it. Then he was very interested in all the kind of life, normal parts of life, not on these great ideas and great theories kind of thing, but the day-to-day life of people, and that is also one of the, to be rooted in life in that much. So that was certainly what I would say the womanly part of Gandhi, and he enjoyed being with women, of course.
And also, sort of, again, the psychoanalyst in you, you've talked about how Meera, after Gandhiji passed away, just sort of blanked out those 10 years of her life with him. Isn't that too a very sort of a form of psychosis? I'm not sure I'm using the right word, right phrase, but a very significant aberration. And what does it tell us?
Yeah. Well, Meera spent a long time with Gandhiji, I mean, from 1925 till 1948, although say from 1942 onwards, the contact was limited. She had gone off to the Himalayas and set up her own ashram. In fact, she is the founder of the Chipko movement. In fact, they were all with it. So the ecology, etc., she has a great role to play. Why did she do that? Now, I haven't talked about in that book. Now, you're asking me, my guess is, my guess is she was very disappointed.
With a relationship with Gandhi, or his assassination, or the response of the people she cared about?
Response of people to Gandhi. India, she thought, has completely moved away from Gandhi, and she was very surprised and disappointed, because she thought now when India is independent, of course, Bapu, all his ideas are going to be brought into into play. India will organize itself around Gandhian principles, and she thought that they have completely betrayed Gandhi. I think she was very disappointed, and she used to write a lot of letters to the Prime Minister at that time and Chief Minister of do this, and I don't think she was getting to, they were very polite to her because she was very well known and respected, but they were not going to come and start Gandhian projects that way. That's not where their interest lay, and I think there was a great disappointment. So she thought Indians didn't deserve Gandhi. So she won't talk to an Indian about Gandhi, but she thought Westerners also don't understand Gandhi, so she won't talk to Westerners also about Gandhi. And I think she kind of locked him up in her heart. Didn't throw away the key, but probably only opened it for herself, not for others.
In a sense, she already had a surrogate attachment, as it were, before Gandhi, and that just replaced Gandhi after sort of this period. Was she thinking about Gandhi too during this 10-year period, or was it just...
which period you mean, the surrogate?
I mean, in the sense that before she met Gandhi, she was very obsessed with Beethoven.
With Beethoven. So she came back.
Yes.
So she came back to Beethoven. She came back to her first passion because there was no conflict around it. Beethoven had been dead for long ago, and his music lived. So she had no conflict there. But with Gandhi, there was this conflict around Gandhi for her.
You also mentioned that you didn't dare take liberties with facts as they pertain to Gandhi, or potentially take liberties. I mean, here was a man who was deeply committed to the truth, and in a sense was able to avoid controversy or what have you, because he just spoke the truth anyway, and so there was nothing really to unearth. But as a psychoanalyst, in terms of your explorations, beyond the facts that he articulated and he sort of acknowledged and spoke about, what was your understanding of this conflict that he experienced between the spirit and the flesh that you spoke about?
Yes, well, my understanding was that Mira's relationship, which was, yes, was very spiritual one. She wanted, but for her, the flesh or the body came in the way too. I mean, she did not know. She wanted the nearness all the time, and then he keeps saying her, "My work. You've come for my work, not for this body. Why do you want to touch my feet all the time?"
And yet there are these occasional flashes that Gandhiji's defenses may have crumbled, perhaps.
That is that, and I think he sensed that. I think he sensed the desire part in her also. I don't think she sensed it, but since he was so sensitive to his own desires, and he didn't want that to be stoked up in any way, to be disturbed in any way, and he would push her away. So in that sense, it was. Otherwise, I do not understand of what he himself says, cruelly doing that. Why you need to do it unless you are disturbed yourself? So I would say there was some kind of ashanti there, which her importunate, her wanting to be near him, brought in him too.
And how have the Gandhians who deify Gandhi in sort of virtuous purity despite his own candor, how have they responded to your book?
Well, they've responded, I think, in a very, first of all, in a very condescending way of saying, I think one of the very well-known ones, I was with on a panel discussion with her, and afterwards she was saying, if you are standing on the road, how can you look up to Everest? I agree. And then you cannot write about nuclear physics without knowing anything about it. I agree with it, but then of course you can't write about anything. I'm a man, I can't write about a woman because I've never experienced that. But there was that you cannot, any kind of human part of Gandhi, he's pure spirit to them, and any kind of humanness is an insult to Gandhiji. And I beg to completely differ and disagree.
And in fact, that remains pretty much the appeal of Gandhiji to most of us. The fact that superhuman though he was, he represented a quality of humanness that made him accessible.
Yes, absolutely, and I think that is the only way we can again keep on having access to him. If we kind of make him into a devta and put him only on 2nd October to be worshipped and paid obeisance, then there will be no point. It's only his accessibility which will influence our generation, which should, because I think he's a very, very great figure.
You're watching a conversation with Dr. Sudhir Kakar, psychoanalyst and author. We'll be right back after a short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to our continuing conversation with Dr. Sudhir Kakar. It was this kind of sort of interest and approach that also had you focus on Vatsayan and the analyst and the mystic that looked at Ramakrishna. And here was you know, a man of God. And what was your psychoanalysis of Ramakrishna? Again, in looking at mysticism, violence, and sexuality, you know, time is too short. I would love to have explored the notion, you know, of violence in Gandhi and how that may have, or his sort of interest in non-violence as a consequence, perhaps, of repressed sexuality. But that's for another day. But tell us about Ramakrishna.
Well, Ramakrishna is also one of those figures where I think this conversation between spirit and flesh is there. He looks completely spirit outside.
And less apparent in the case of Gandhi, less obvious.
Much less apparent. In Gandhi it is there. Vatsayan, of course, is, since we don't know anything about him, he's completely, so to say, flesh or desire, but again there is a core of spirit, because at the end he says all this is really to get stillness of the spirit. So
do you believe that?
I think so. I think so. I think very much so. I think the goal of sexuality is not pleasure, but this kind of stillness. And Ramakrishna had also problems with his, very much so, with his sexuality, of his fear of women. So it was not that he's completely born without desire. Every saint, I think, has to struggle with desire. And if one, they call it passing through that, what is called the valley, the shadow of the valley, you know, I think that shadow of the valley is of desire. They have to pass through it some way, and some deal with it this way, some that way. So Ramakrishna also passed through that.
As I guess that what you're also implying is that it's something that is a part of human experience, whether you're a Gandhi, or a Ramakrishna, or who or what you are. And it really depends in what way this conversation happened. And I have to keep repeating that. I love that phrase. But isn't somewhere sort of psychoanalysis of, you know, these great figures of icons essentially an exercise in irreverence?
Mature way of approaching a great figure, whoever it is through, not through reverence. Reverence takes away all your critical faculties. It makes you a very small child, but through admiration. I think admiration is the mature way of approaching. I admire, but I do not want to be a part of this person and to just get his greatness, saying, you are great, but I'm a part of you, which means I can't see the person at all. I would like to see and admire, rather than put my forehead on the feet and say, you are
so admire and understand.
Admire and understand, I think. I think understanding is the biggest compliment one can pay to the other human being. That you are trying to understand is the biggest way to get near another person than praying.
But as a psychoanalyst by vocation and training, I described in the introduction, isn't that sort of a preconceived framework, because that is your training, with which you approach this? And obviously there will be other terms of reference by which we can understand.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, this is certainly not the only way. This is one look at it. And I think if you have lots of I think they're all complementary ways of looking at it. And I think all can learn from each other. I think, but psychoanalytic is not the only way, but it is one of the ways which is of looking at our humanness and making some sense of it.
So give us a sort of a university 101 on psychoanalysis. What is its goal? What is its striving? And what is the objective with which you sort of analyze historical figures? You know, we've traditionally looked at psychoanalysis as helping each other, helping other human beings to cope with crisis or capacity or inability. And very rarely is it used by people who are already in a state of equilibrium to be, I hate to use the word better, but in a higher state of equilibrium. So what is the goal, the aspiration of this?
The aspiration of dealing with historical figures in psychoanalysis.
Well, let's just start with the aspiration of psychoanalysis per se, and then apply this to?
Well, sir, this is a very, very difficult 101.
A
Large 101.
Well, we make it 102.
Large 101. Well, psychoanalysis, there's lots of ways. One of the goals you can say is well, if you look at it pessimistically, that replace misery with common human unhappiness. I think that is a big goal. It doesn't believe in great things, that as long as survival is all. So
it's not the shortcut, or not a mechanism to be happy in terms of the American dream.
No, I think happiness is not part of psychoanalytic vocabulary. No, actually it is, but it would say love, work, and hope. If you can have three, and if it makes a person capable of three, if one has gone or two or all of them have gone, and if you can again reintroduce the three in the person, that is all one happiness which one can give. It doesn't believe in ecstasy, but happiness it does believe in. Then the historical figures, it's really a playfulness. And now my teacher was Erik Erikson, who wrote a book on Gandhi. And now strangely, since we are talking about it, how I come to write about Gandhi, I suddenly discovered, and this is just afterward, he was exactly my age when his book on Gandhi was published. So how I came to exactly the same age. These are unconscious psychoanalytic things to be looked at. And what is the aim there is also to understand and learn of how great figures deal with exactly the same kind of problems, not problems or conflicts between spirit, flesh, desires, how they do it, to give us hope, to look how great you can be in spite of all the things certainly. So hope it gives us also, I think, to encourage us, you can love and work even in spite of most crippling inhibitions. So I think inspire or inspirational is certainly one of the things. And second, for me, it was not really this book as a psychoanalytical, but a novelist book, which is just a very, very good story.
So you've also given us a definition of how you perceive greatness, but we'll be right back on that. You're watching a conversation with Dr. Sudhir Kakar. We'll be right back after a short break. Don't go away. Welcome back. Tell us that why is it sort of proverbially in the image that we have of psychoanalysts and say talk therapists, and this is not to place you in that category, the popular perception is that they're a little kinky and a little off frequently. Why is that? I mean, even sort of in movies and in popular literature, they're always portrayed as not sort of normal functional people. Is that a fair depiction of them?
There may be something true to that. It's a fair depiction, kinky. Now, what is kinky?
Well, let's make it a milder word.
All right, let's make it, yeah. Oh, yeah, well,
not entirely happy and balanced and in flow. Sort of, the qualities that, that you would imagine they would encourage and make possible in other people.
Well, most analysts listen to 10, 12 hours or 8 to 10, 12 hours of pretty harrowing stuff every day, and they have to keep quiet.
Is that why you started writing, to get it out of your system?
To get it out of the system. So they don't. So they have to keep. No, I think you are right in one way, that because of what they do, their view of normality becomes very different. So normality is not that kind of restraint, constraint, what everyone thinks it is, but their view of it becomes much larger. I think it's not a bad thing at all. Their tolerance for the abnormal, as others would call it, is much larger. And they, I think, also then include that in their own. So you do not repress many things. In fact, I remember when studying the psychoanalytic institutes, the amount of slips of the tongue psychoanalysts make, I haven't seen any other profession making that, because they let it go. They don't have as many defenses. So then it looks as if you are kinky, because you're not having all your defenses all the time. You're not all buttoned up all the time. So that may be one reason why they are looked as kinky. In fact, there is a phrase called the pathography of normality, the pathology of normality. If you are completely haven't any kind of what is called outside normal thoughts, you, from morning to evening, it's just that
there's
part
something
of
wrong.
it. There is something not quite right. You are not living your life. You are not human.
And what does a psychoanalyst do with himself, or how does a psychoanalyst work with himself? I mean, I've read in general literature that very often in training to be a psychoanalyst, you have to, it's a process you have to go through yourself with someone else. But as an ongoing, aspect of your life, do you psychoanalyze yourself as life unfolds?
No.
How do you resist that temptation to analyze, to categorize and say, well, this is why I'm doing X, Y. It must be exasperating for people around you if you
nobody lives that way. It's like a poet. You're a poet only when you're writing poetry. You're a psychoanalyst only when you're doing psychoanalysis. The rest of that time, you're not a psychoanalyst.
You're a poet, and you have a sensibility.
No, but you're not writing poetry all the time. So there may be a sensibility, but it is not directed towards yourself. And in fact, if you are teaching, you're not teaching, but you're conveying to your clients that live your life and don't keep on being obsessed by analyzing it. So if you're going to do it yourself, it's not a great thing to do.
So how do you go about resolving your own issues and dilemmas and confusions and processes, assuming you have them?
I have them. Well, like everyone else. I mean, dreams, I look at when I'm in that kind of a state, pay special attention to my dreams and talk it over with someone who can help me, because you get very blind to your own things. To discuss my dreams now with my wife, but who's very good at the dream analysis. So certainly that, and in writing, and there are lots of ways. Earlier, of course, it used to be that you were supposed to go. Not supposed to, but you were expected that every 4 or 5 years you need a rehaul, go again for your
therapy.
Another therapy, for a therapy to the therapist. Like a kind of an old car being called in and being overhauled, but now hardly people do it.
From amongst the best-known psychoanalysts in India, what is your advice to the millions of us, certainly to someone like me, struggling to cope with the chaos and inconsistencies and irrationalities of this at least seemingly mad world?
Well, I'd say do it on your own. Except with, I mean, it is really no use going to an analyst unless you are in great pain. So that is when it really helps. Otherwise, it is a play, which is not really beneficial for you or for the therapist. So
you mentioned play, and there's so much of what you write that derives from both Western analytical theory and yet sourced in Indian tradition, Indian processes, and the Indian vocabulary. What is the synthesis of this for you?
I wish I knew. I wish I knew. I think that I hope I would never know. I will keep on working at it, on writing, and sometimes the synthesis would reveal itself. I don't know, but that is what I'm looking for in my writing myself.
Sudhir Kakar, thank you very much. This has been a great privilege.
Thank you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.